Hello, folks. I'm back. Ran into some ASCOM issues and replaced a cable, and now I'm starting all over again. So I'm glad I did get started early. I'm planning an after transit uh, time lapse, and I'm looking for framing and with what telescope I'm going to use. I'm currently riding two telescopes tandem, the Solar Scout and the Astrotech 65 EDQ, and both of those are solar equipped by Daystar filters, and one has the Quark, and the Solar Scout has the Quark built in. So that's what we're doing now. Let's head on over there and check this party out. All right. First thing I wanted to show you, though, was if you go to the nso.edu, it's the Gong to nso.edu website. You can see pretty much live time, real time pictures of the sun, and you can even see a time lapse or an animated 24-hour view of the sun. So this is just 2 minutes old, and this is 1 minute old. The rest of them are either shut down and or they're in the middle of the night due to their location, so they don't have access to the sun. But I'm going to check this one out. I'm going to double click on it, and it won't open up because it's not ready to open up yet. It's too new. So I'll click on the play button, and it's this part of the sky that I'm kind of interested in right now. And if you play this, you can see that there are some funky things going on, and we have some rim activity, some solar flaring. So that looks okay, looks good, and it looks good here. I'm not sure how it's going to look through my optics. So let's head on over to my optics. First thing I want to do, though, before I do that, is I'm going to go to Sky Safari. It's kind of like Stellarium, and I want to make sure I've got now scheduled. And let's find the sun. I want to see what time it transits. Double click on that, and it says it transits at 1:30. So I'm going to do my scouting around now, and then at 1:30 I'm going to start a time lapse that I hope will run around 3 hours. If there's going to be any movement on the sun, I hope I can get some during that time. You never know, it's a hit and miss, but that's what the plan is. So let's navigate out to the telescope, and this is a live view of the sun. um, Well, Crackerbox, when I was outside changing the cable, I should have focused the Solar Scout. This is the Solar Scout uh, that I'm imaging with now. This is by Daystar filters, and I highly support and recommend their equipment and service. They stand behind everything they do. Uh, I had user issues. I thought they were Daystar issues when I first started out with my first Chromosphere. It wasn't what it was. It wasn't doing what I thought it should do, and so I was calling and talking to Jen and others, and they were trying to walk me through it. And ultimately, it turned out I bought the wrong thing. So they made it right. And so that was awesome. And they've been nothing but helpful with the questions I've had since. So I applaud them. Makes a difference. But at any rate, they don't pay me to say anything. I'm an old retired goat that just enjoys taking pictures of the night sky and the sun and planets. So that's my thing. Um, let me see if I can find a picture. It's not worth it. Um, I was going to show you the setup. Let me see if I can do that this way. And let me, I'm looking at some overlays and okay. Uh, I don't know if you're able to see this. I better find out before yeah. I'm not sure if you're able to see this or not, but I'm hoping that you can. But this is the Solar Scout on top, and this is the Quark Chromosphere attached to a ASI 174 mono camera on the bottom. This is the ASI 1600 mono camera on the top, and I do have a moonlight focuser on the bottom. Boy, this is an old picture. I've replaced this power rig with the Pegasus Ultimate Power Box, the version 2 brand. Boy, they're awesome. And I put those on my other two setups, and I wouldn't trade those for anything. But this is what I'm working with. I hope that showed up and you're able to see that. But let's go back to here. And so this is the Solar Scout. This is coming from the 60 millimeter refractor on top that has a Quark Chromosphere built into it. And so that's what that thing is. And then I'm going to switch cameras, and let's pull up the 174, and this is going to be a much closer look, and I'm overexposed, so I'm going to have to bring this down, and I'm not focused here either. I'm telling you, I just got started, and I got a lot of work to do to get ready for this afternoon. But I'm going to kind of venture around the sun. And right now, I'm so focused on not losing anything here. If you are having comments, I'll look at them in just a few minutes. But I'm going to find the edge over here, and then I'm going to do some focusing or work on it. So let's stop right there, and let me come down to my focuser, and let's zoom in just a little bit. How about a lot bit? And scene is not very good. Everything's kind of waving around, and it looks like it's going in focus and out of focus. It makes it really hard to focus. Let's go out a few steps. I can see that it's not helping, so let's go back to where we started, and let's go in a couple of steps. Now, I think that may have improved some, but then because of seeing, let's just come back one step, or one set of 10. Well, there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do about the scene here, and it is what it is. So let's do this now. Let's start moving the telescope around the sun. First, I'm going to be looking at the, let's change this to 8 times sidereal, and let's move the sun up. Whoop, wrong way. Wow. I hope there's some rim activity there. Wow. That's, if there's something going on in the rim, this is where I'll probably set up the time lapse. Gosh, I hope seeing gets better. Let me overexpose this and see if the rim is cooking up something. Oh yeah. Oh good. All right. So we've got this going on. And I'm going to I'm going to move this down a little more, or the sun up. Okay, we got this too. So now this is looking really good. I wonder if I can, let's move the sun up a little. And then let's bring our gain back down to 100. And this down to about 10. Wow. So this is a possibility right here. If I image this, in fact, I'm going to take a quick capture and let's just knock off 500 frames real quick. And in fact, why is this buffering? While it's doing that, I'm going to continue to go around the sun. This is why you need kind of a dry run, because it looks like I've got, it looks like I'm having some file buffering issues as well. Okay, not much going on other than my dust. And let's go back to where we started. But I apologize, allergies have wiped our whole family out. And it's been going on for a number of, that's pretty cool. That's just right north of where we were. That's good. Okay, this is kind of where we started. So let's go ahead and bring this out to 150 and bring this up to about 50, 30, 30. Is 30 enough? Yeah, that's fine. Now I want to go around the sun and just check the rim out. That's some cool stuff going on there. Surely we can get some rim activity. Oop. There's a little flaring going on there, but not worth an afternoon of babysitting this mount for a time lapse. And there's no, oh, we got, that looks pretty cool. But there weren't any sunspouts in this frame to, I don't know. Oh, we got to go south. So right now I have overexposed the sun just so I can get a picture of what kind of activity, if any, is going on the rim of the sun. And there is a flare. Nothing that remarkable until we get down here. and that's looking pretty cool there. So let's move it up some. Oh, up. Yeah, that would be. I'd like to get all of this in, plus the sunspots. By tomorrow, if this is still active, this should be really cool because the sunspots are right in this area here. So let's bring this back down to 100 gain, and let's make this 9.5 milliseconds. So I probably would move over and down some. And we're still a little too hot. This is kind of looking like where I may end up this afternoon. And there should be some, over a 3 hour period, we should be able to see some movement in and around these sunspots, and also some movement on the surface. So I just took a 500 frame image. I'm going to bring that up and da, 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 da. Took that today, and there it is. I wonder if one of my older flats that I took they're not that much older, but I'm going to try to find a flat. We'll try that one and see. Wait a minute. Yeah, Astrotech. Yeah, that sort of worked. Got rid of some of that dust. So let's go ahead and make sure we've got the surface, improve tracking, expand, Laplace. Okay, let's analyze. And while that's doing its thing, let's go back and let's run the exposure back up again and look at our solar flares. So this is what I'll be able to get, provided that I'm able to track pixel on pixel. If I don't babysit this mount and keep it dead center in this one position, then the software will have to do some cropping. And if it has to come up too close, I may lose this. This part right here will be safe, and my sunspots will be safe, but any massive cropping could cause me to lose what could be a very active part of the sun before 3 hours is up. This may even disappear, so it may be moot. But there's also some other stuff going on here that it's hard to see, but when you take a time lapse and you process it, um, it's amazing what a camera can do that the eyes can't do. All right, let's go ahead and place a grid. This is some kind of a quality graph, and I'll keep 20% of 500. I'll keep 100 frames and stack them. So let's do that. I'm just curious to see what this might look like. So I'm going to go on back to 9 and 100. Yeah, I'll take another. Let's make sure. Check my settings out. Okay, we want to go to file names. All right. We should be getting done with this, and we are. So let's close this out, and let's open up ImPPG. I prefer ImPPG for processing the moon, the sun, and some Registacks does a good job with planetary processing. So does this. So let's open up this file. Let's find it first. Today is the. Here's my image. Okay, let's reduce it to size, and rather than just process a portion, which you can decide on what portion you want to process and then apply it to all, I'm just going to edit, select, and process all at one time. And the first thing I'm going to do is take the curves graph. If you don't have this squiggly, this is where you get the curves, tonal curve, and then I'm going to place a anchor point there and drag this up. Yeah, to about there. I want to see this solar flare, and I'm going to bring this back down to here, about there. This is rough. I just want to see what I have in my frame, and then I'm going to drag this up to about 2.4, which is kind of where I stop in deconvolution. And then I'm going to come down here with sigma, go to 1.4, and about 1.2, 1.3. And that kind of sharpen things up a bit without creating any artifacts. So crop out this hot corner. I need a new flat frame because this dust is still there, and a new flat frame will also eliminate that hot spot. And so that's what we're looking at, folks. Will it turn out? We're going to find out. Let's head back outside to close this out. We don't need this. And all right, I'm going to take this time I'm going to take 1,000. I want to see how long it takes to save this file. It should be instant, but a while ago when I did one, it started buffering, and it's doing this again. So, which I can live with because I usually wait at least 60 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes between images in a time lapse. Wow. I may have to change oh crap. That's a 1 terabyte hard drive that's probably slam full. Let me bring it up, just check. Yeah, I've got a lot of videos on this file, so I don't need these. These have all been transferred to a hard drive inside, so we're going to delete that. I'm going to take new flats. I don't need the flats that are on here. Those also have been transferred. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just go ahead. These are some images I took on 2.4. I wonder what that looks like. That's the Solar Scout with a color camera. I used a color camera on that one, the 183, I think. All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to format this drive and and extract. Yep, do a quick format. We know, we don't care. See if I can solve the buffering problem. Okay, I'm going to need to create a new folder for this afternoon. All right. File. And let's click on this drive. We're going to call this 5423 solar time lapse. And we'll apply. Make sure you click on apply, or you'll end up saving to your C drive, your internal hard drive, and they fill up fast. So when I do set up this time lapse, I'm going to go to start. I'm going to just use sun. Number of frames will be 1000. And I want to do 200, maybe more, but I want 200. And the interval between the frames, that's 45 seconds, will be 2 minutes. So that's what's going to happen. And this is going to be PM for afternoon. So that's how I'll set it up. So what's going to happen is that we're going to take a frame. First thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm just going to, back up. It's going to take a frame that's going to be 1000, or take an image, an AVI file that's going to be 1000 frames in the video, and then it'll count down to 199, and then it's going to wait 2 minutes, going to take another one, wait 2 minutes, and take another one. I used to just wait like 30 seconds, and sometimes less than that, but I'd have 200, 300, 400 frames in 3 hours, and the movement wasn't any different, and it took forever to process all of those videos. So I do fewer videos, and over the same span of time, and I get, in effect, the same animation, or I really don't know because I never did them side by side, but the animation still is there. It's suitable for me anyway, and that's what matters. So once you click start, you're good to go. However, if your mount is as bad as my mount in tracking, because it's not polar aligned, what I have to do is put up some crosshairs. So I'll click up a single crosshair, and I'll move it to a sunspot I know isn't going anywhere, to be as my reference. And let's just say I pick, this would be a good one right here. And then as it drifts during the 2 minute pause, I will recenter it. And yes, that means you kind of have to stay here with the mount. So I have a television right to my right, big screen TV, and I'll put on a movie. I'll lay back, and I'll handle the babysitting with my left mouth and just say a little prayer that I don't get engrossed in the movie and forget about the sun. If I have to go get a bite to eat or go use the restroom, I'll just stop the guiding. I'll stop the imaging. It may take me longer than 2 minutes, but rather than take 2 or 3 images that are off center, which could cause a crop I don't want, I'll just wait till I get back. So that's kind of how I do the time lapse. Now, let's go out and look at the Solar Scout, because I haven't ruled out using that either. So I'm going to go to camera, and let's click on the Solar Scout, and let's move this over. Get my hand controller. It needs to go east, I believe, yeah, and some south, east. Let's center the crosshairs and kind of, well, all right, so we're going to go and then south. Okay, let's say it's centered. It's fairly close. Now let's overexpose this. We have a gain of 7. I'm going to put a gain of 10, and let's go up to about, well, actually, let's move the gain up.
Please unlock your device.
I'm not going to unlock my device. I don't know what device I'm supposed to unlock. All right. So if we do the Solar Scout, and this, by the way, needs to be focused before I do anything, but if we do the Solar Scout, we'll pick up this rim activity, and let's just go ahead and take a, let me give this a name, Scout, and and let's take, let's bring this back to about 4, and this back to 4 milliseconds, and this back to 0. I don't want any gain. Let's take 10. Oop. 7. Let's do 8. Let's do 9. All right. It's not focused, but I'm going to go ahead and take one of these. Let me see if I can move this tad bit west. Because that's where, over here is where the sunspot is. And let's go to quick capture, and let's just take 200 of these. By the way, because this is the ASI 1600, this is not a good solar camera. But it does, because of pixel size, it gives me the whole disk of the sun, but it only takes 19 frames per second, whereas the 174 was close to 100 frames per second. So I can knock off 1,000 frames very quickly, and a lot quicker than I can knock off 200 frames with this. So let's process this one. Let's go to Autostakkert. I do not have a flat frame for this one. And so it is what it is. I think I opened this up twice, which is fine. Let's bring this down. And let's just go ahead, nothing's changed, and analyze it. And while it's analyzing, this is a real-time view of our sun with an unfocused Solar Scout, although it actually looks better, and it's because it's not zoomed in as much as the Astrotech 330 millimeter. Now, even though this is a 60 millimeter telescope, the Quark Chromosphere has a built-in Barlow multiplier, and I think it's 4 times. It may be slightly over 4 times the 60 millimeter, so it would be 240 millimeter. Whereas with the Astrotech, I think that's a 420 field of view for it, so it's almost 1600 millimeters. So that's why I have such a zoomed in look and can't get any further back with the 174. But then it's good for doing close-ups of the solar flares and sunspots. But time lapses from this are pretty cool too. So let's see how we're doing over here. This is going to take a little longer. Let's keep, since we only did 500, 200, let's just keep 20%. That's fine. Let's place a grid, and let's do 200. No, let's do 48. 48 is the size of the sample box, and it's 48 pixels by 48 pixels. So, oh no, I don't want that. It's got to finish calculating. Nah, we don't want to do 200. What am I thinking? the pixel scale is so much different. Okay, we want 200. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to save 20%. Da 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 da. Come on, what's going on? Come on, what's going on? Really, what is going on? Well, I lost my ASCII driver earlier today, so this might as well. There it goes. Locked up for some reason. So let's go ahead and stack. And while it's stacking this, we'll go back out and look at the sun. As a matter of fact, you can get rid of our crosshairs. And let's go back out to the 174 camera. And let's bring our, let's see, we're at 110 frames per second. Let's bring our gain down to 77. And let's see, there was another sunspot up here, wasn't there? That, no, that, I think it's down. No, that's, all right. This is where I'm going to be this afternoon. So um, I have made up my mind. This is going to be where I'll zero in and try to get my 200 images for a 3-hour time lapse. And if you'll give me 1 second here. Hey, Alexandra. Sorry for not getting back with you, but I was trying to figure out how to do a couple of these things. I'm kind of waiting on uh, Autostakkert to finish its thing, and it's done. So let's close that out. And let's open up ImPPG. It's free software. And let's open up this picture right here. And again, we do not have any flats yet. So we got some rugged stuff. Let's process the whole thing at one time. So we get rid of the box. And let me it's a lot of fun, Alexander. It's just I'm going to bring that curve up. This curve is activated right up here. So now the only difference, well, it's a big difference when I process the scout images Instead of 2.4, I'm going to go up to almost 4.0 in deconvolution. And it's because I can. And it really doesn't create any artifacts. I'm even going to stop at 4400, and it's processing it down here. So there we go. I'm going to run up the about 1700, about 1.5, 1.6 here. So got some lighting problems, so let's see if we can't fix that. You just have to play around with this curve until you get what you want. And I would probably stop somewhere along there and then bring it into Photoshop and bring up curves. And I would select the red channel and I would drag it up, and then I would take the green channel and drag it down and drag the blue channel down. Play around with that until you get this. Now this is a mono, so when you bring it into Photoshop, you're going to have to first convert it to RGB, and you go up to view mode, and then that's how you do that. Convert it to 8-bit, and I'll go ahead and convert it to 8-bit. That sunspot that was over here that we saw earlier isn't there anymore. It wouldn't, or it would have come out on this. Not sunspot, solar flare. And if you take a flat, then flats, in fact, let's go take some flats with the, get that done now, and I'll have that out of the way so I don't forget this afternoon. So let me close this out. I'm not saving it. It's not going to be used, but this is a dust spot. This is a dust spot, and this is dirt. Dirt on the sensor. This is actually on the sensor. When you see something as defined as this that does not move around with the sun, it's fixed on your sensor. But these spots that also don't move around as the sun moves around, or when you slew around, these are more likely to be on the IR UV cut filter that's attached to the camera, or the Quark that's attached to the IR UV filter and then the camera. So but this is on the sensor, and I just don't touch sensors. It might be on the glass, over the protective glass over the sensor, but as defined as that is, I think it's on the sensor itself, and I just don't. It flats out so good, it's pointless. Here's another one right up here. It's not moving around. This is dirt on the sensor. So the way I take flats for this camera is different than the way I take flats for the Scout. With the Scout, I bought a flat cap from Daystar filters, and it slips over the end of the Scout, and it defocuses just the sun. And then I take a picture and create my flat. But with the 174 camera on the Astrotech refractor, I just move the sun I fill the frame with the sun. Is the easiest way to do it. You don't have to, but that's what I do. And then I'm going to see the sun needs to come down some, and I'm a little hot, so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. There. Actually, what I'm going to do is come down and reset my histogram. Okay, so that's been reset. And then I'm going to defocus this by, actually I'm going to raise this hang on a minute. That histogram, I want to slide it over to the right just a little bit. There you go. All right, now I'm going to defocus 1,000 steps. I'm going to move the focuser in. You can go in or out, but 1,000 steps will get rid of everything but the spots. So the dirt went away, but the grit didn't, and these sunspots didn't. So I need to change the name to flat. That worked. And let's just take one with 100 frames. Well, it's taking 200, which is fine. Okay. Now, the way you work with your flats, since I've got it taken, I got two versions of SharpCap up. That's the Pegasus I was telling you about. Let's bring up Autostakkert, and you open the file. Let me find it. Scout, nope. We want to go with flat. You're going to go to, you don't do anything with this, by the way. I got too many windows in here. But you load this, and then once you have it loaded, you don't run analyze or anything. You go to image and you create master flat. And I'll just give it a name, master flat 174, because it's the 174 camera. And I am going to have, I'll just put it in the flat frame, save it. So now I will have my flat frame. And I'm going to go back out and bring up SharpCap. And I'm going to bring the focuser out 1,000 steps. And then I'm going to change my, I want to move this back some. And let's move see, we want to move west. And we'll take another picture and we'll apply the flat to it. All right, there we go. Now we have to, let's just bring the gain up to 100. And this time, let's change this to just sun. I'm going to delete all these. And let's do a capture of just 200 frames is fine. Get it over with. Let's bring up Autostakkert now. Let's load that image. Sun. And see if I can make this a little bigger. And let's load our new flat. Before I do anything, I'm going to load master flat. And then it goes right to it because I just saved it and it has that memory already in place. It's the master flat 174. So keep an eye on this dust spot, and that dust spot. And they're gone. I made that flat a little bit too bright. And the reason why I know is that this is bright. I have a gradient. I'm not too worried. I'll probably crop some of this out. But it also, when you have brighter and then darker, it gives the sun in processing the appearance of being round. So it's not entirely a bad thing. It is round. So, but it's a little bit too hot on this side over here. So I made my flat a little bit too hot, but I'm usually making it just the opposite, and I miss stuff over here. So that's how you apply your flat. Then you go ahead and analyze your image, like we did with the other one. I apologize. This laptop is older than, I'll tell you what, it's about 15 years old, and Adele, and it's very slow. I'll stack this with about, I'm using 104 for this one, and that's the pixel size of the sample box. And I'll save 20%. It should go fairly quickly. So anytime you can save 20%, 30%, 40%, and it will create 4 folders. One called 20, one called 30, one called 40, one called 50. Or you can say, I want to save 20 frames or 50 frames or all 200 frames. So to use to stack. But I try to pick the best, say 20%, regardless of the quality graph. So, okay. Now, by the way, the quality graph is important. This isn't going to tell you a whole lot other than it's a poor image, because if this is 25%, this represents 20%, then only 20% of my frames are better than half of the frames. So 20% are in the upper 50%, 80% are in the lower. So I have more bad frames than I have good frames. So it's a poor image, and it's partially due to focus, partly due to scene conditions. But as a rule, I do get pretty decent quality graphs. I think you saw at least the graph intersect around 50% on the Solar Scout. And that really came from the definition around the sun between the black and the white part of the sun. So let's close. This is done. Let's close this out. And then let's open ImPPG again, now that we have a flat frame. No, I haven't. I was reading your comments. No, I've never. Well, I take that back. I have with the Solar Scout, because it's so. I have used just a few frames with the Solar Scout, but I've never. I'm usually saving between 15 and 30%, regardless of the quality graph, for file size, and that gives me. I haven't been able to tell. Uh, I haven't really been able to tell a big difference between um, a good a good AVI file with 50% of the frames stacked, and or with 20% of the frames stacked. And since it takes longer to process, I just kind of go on the low side, and particularly when I'm doing a time lapse and I'm doing everything in batch. So let's load up whatever we just took, and I forgot what we took. Was it sun? What did we take? Oh, wait a minute. We got a. I've already lost my train of thought. Uh, so it'd be sun, 20%. We don't want it. So this is what we want. No, we want the TIFF file. What have I done here? Did it finish? I guess it did. I already closed out Autostakkert. I don't know what I've done. Let me try. Open again. And solar. There it is. I don't know what I was doing. Wasn't paying attention. All right. So there is the spots removed. And then let's bring this up to 2.4. A little more. Let's probably. This is where I run into trouble. And I like to do most of my sharpening in either Photoshop or let me get my curves here. Okay, let's put an anchor point about right there. Now, in that neighborhood, but because it's a little brighter over here, it kind of gives the appearance of the of being round as opposed to having a flat field. This is kind of interesting looking here. I've got good detail around in here, but I don't here, and I think it's my settings. I'm really running it up. You don't want to do that, but you start getting all these weird artifacts on the rim of the sun when you really start dragging these things. But at any rate, that's sort of kind of how you get the picture of, it's what I do. I don't know if there's probably a lot better ways of doing this. Um, it's what I've been doing. So, all right. Well, I'm going to sign off, grab a bite to eat. I've got about 45 minutes to get ready for my afternoon time lapse, and I'll catch you all later. And it's Thursday here it's Thursday now, South Carolina, Spartanburg, and I'm ready to have a good weekend too coming up. So y'all have a great rest of the week, great weekend, and clear skies in your neck of the woods.